The 17th of May marks a significant day in the global fight for LGBTQ+ equality and acceptance. It's International Day against homophobia, biphobia and transphobia, also known as IDAHOBIT. This year, we have brought together the diverse voices of our Pride Network members to share their real-life encounters of discrimination. Please note that the voices heard in this compilation have been anonymised for privacy.
In my previous career, I was harassed and bullied by two of my co-workers after telling them about my identity as an asexual person. They had been talking about their experiences of one-night stands, and they assumed that I too must have experienced a fling or two in my life. When I informed them that I hadn't, and that this was because I don't tend to have feelings of sexual desire towards other people, they called me weird, asked me some really personal and intimate questions that made me feel uncomfortable, and went on to share this information with the rest of the department. I felt alone, scared, and judged by two people who I thought were my friends. I ended up leaving that workplace because of the bullying, and have found a much more welcoming and accepting community here at Sunderland University. Unfortunately, the discrimination I faced means that I am now much more closed about my identity in my workplace.
I'm bisexual, and so many people have tried to invalidate my identity because of the way that I look and the partners that I've had in the past. Apparently to some people I look too straight to be gay, or to others I look too gay to be straight, but that's the point, isn't it? I'm not straight, I'm not gay, I'm bisexual, and I'm proud.
My family was staying at a hotel to attend a funeral last year. The hotel had a pool, so we decided to go for a swim. The male staff member on duty, seeing long hair and dungarees, loudly directed my 18-year-old towards the female changing rooms. But they went with their dad into the male changing rooms, as had always been the case. Deciding not to swim, they went out to sit by the poolside, and then had to listen to a female member of staff loudly discussing with her colleagues about whether they had seen that woman go into the male's changing room. My child sat, humiliated, while this went on. The manager was mysteriously unavailable as we left, so we settled on a phone call and email to follow up from me, which we received an apology and acknowledgement of their responsibilities under the Equality Act 2010. This discriminatory assumption and ensuing rudeness, made solely on physical appearance, added to the burden of a young person who already is struggling with issues of gender. As a parent, it's hard to watch the child you love experiencing ignorance and prejudice, especially when the law apparently protects them from it.
My husband and I were doing our weekly grocery shop in our hometown with our 2-year-old son sat in the trolley. A lady in her 60s or 70s approached us asking who the father was. I replied saying he's both of ours, we're his dads. The lady looked at us in disgust, tutted, and then turned to our son and said, "Oh, I bet you would love a mummy, wouldn't you?" My husband and I were in complete shock. We couldn't believe what we had just witnessed. Afterwards, a younger woman approached us to ask if we were okay. She told us that she'd overheard what had happened but didn't know how to say anything because of the woman's age. Although it was lovely of her to check in with us, I told her that bigotry is not excusable because of a person's age, and that both of our parents were in their 70s and completely accepting and welcoming of our identities and our family structure.
When I was in secondary school, I cut off all of my hair and donated it to the Little Princess Trust, which meant all of my hair would be made into a wig for a child who had undergone chemotherapy and as a result had lost their own hair in the process. It did mean that I had short back and sides in secondary school, which wasn't a particularly popular look for the girls in my school, and I have to be honest, life became a little bit difficult as a result of that haircut. There was lots of homophobia directed towards me for simply having short hair. I was called many different slurs, which, even when brought to the attention of teachers, was faced with no action. And overall, it was a very unpleasant experience for a 15-year-old girl to go through. and I became very self-conscious. I was paranoid that people were judging us, and I felt a huge amount of pressure from my peers to try and look a certain way. But I think one positive outcome from that experience was that I began to place less importance on people's perceptions of me, especially when it came to my physical appearance, and I started to focus more on what I liked about myself, which has actually been a really empowering and rewarding journey for me.
As a trans person, I have faced so many instances of transphobia since coming out in my late teens. Of course, I went through endless bullying at school from my peers and the teachers, as well as at home and in my local community. Fortunately, and I know this is quite a rare experience, but the one place where I found peace and a sense of safety was at my church. The leader of our youth group at church was a lesbian, and her wife welcomed me with open arms. They supported me through my late teens and into my 20s, and it wasn't until I was into my mid-30s when something happened that really took me by surprise and sent me right back to my 17-year-old self. I had sought private medical care for an ongoing health issue and was refused care because of the doctor's transphobic views. Apparently, the care went against his personal and religious views. This left me feeling neglected and invisible. Religion, the very thing that saved me in my teen years, was now the thing that prevented me from receiving medical care.
If you could do one thing today to help reduce the rates of homophobia, biphobia and transphobia, would you do it? Use your voice today and every day to stand up against discrimination and fight for the rights of your LGBTQ+ colleagues, friends and family.